everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Krystle, just in case you are new here, and today I have a 23 books I'd like to read in 2023 video for you. So there's a lot of books that were on my TBR last year that I'm incorporating in this because I didn't get to read much last year. I think my Goodreads goal for the year was 65 books because I knew I was getting married. There was no way that I was going to read more than 65 books. But I ended up only reading 42 of the 65 books, which is still a lot. I have friends that read 9, 12 books a year and they feel completely accomplished with that. But for me, as an avid reader, I feel like I'm missing out. So I have 23 books in this video that I would really like to get to this year. A lot of them are first in a series, so that means, you know, you could double, triple that. But I just have these must-reads that I'd like to get to that I want to share with you today. So in no particular order, this is not going to be the order that I'm reading them in or anything like that. This is just the books that I want to read this year. And I just made piles in my library that I'm just gonna run through really quick. So starting off with Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This is a very much well-loved book. This has started the romance genre off. This is the start of it all, basically. So I would really love to get to this. I have not seen the movie. I have not read the book before. So I'm going in this completely blind. I just want to know what everyone's been talking about, all of the references. And I just know Jane Austen is a staple for most people in their lives. And most people quote the things that she's written. Her words are beautiful. So I really need to get more into reading classics this year, including most of Jane Austen's work. So I'm going to start off with Pride and Prejudice because this is one of the most well-known and most well-loved books that she's ever written. The next I have a second in the series because I read the first one, and that is Kingdom of the Cursed. Also Kingdom of the Feared I'd like to get to also this year, but I really need to finish this series. It's always in the back of my mind because I really did love it. I myself am Italian. I grew up Italian, so having a little bit of like a young adult fantasy fairy tale about Italian witches and sisters just is really up my alley. I really enjoyed the first one, so I want to get back into this world and read it. I know a lot of people, this is like a middle of the road book for people, or this series. I think because it's just not hot and heavy romance and it's just a little bit more of what's going on in the world. Also, the main character is a little bit on the whiny side of things. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the first one, so I'm curious to see where Kerry Maniscalco goes with the rest of the series. Next, I have here The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. I tried to read this book, I want to say it was last year, probably last year, and I just couldn't get into it. Like I said, my brain has been like in a fog the last year, so I think I'm going to get back into this, and now it's published by Tor, so I want to see the revisions that were made. I want to read this book and also the second book. I know it's well loved. It's all over BookTok. Everyone's obsessed with it. I believe it's a dark academia style book, also taking place in the like magic library of Atlantis or so, Alexandria, the Alexandrian Society. I'm sorry. So many things to remember, so many books. The Alexandrian Society, the Lost Library. From what I hear, it's definitely more of a character-driven book, and you follow numerous characters. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm not going to say it's on the top of my list of things to read, but I love reading books that everyone's talking about. I just need to know what everyone's talking about. So The Atlas 6 is definitely something I need to get to. I have here The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sandhu Mandana. I wanted to read this before the end of the year in 2022, but that did not happen. And this is just like a cozy, magical realism book that has to do with like a witch who had to suppress her powers her entire life, and then she gets called to help these other witches with their powers, and there's like a romance with a librarian. And I just heard just great things about this book. It's very cozy, it's very heartfelt, and it just seems like something light to read, which along with all of the crazy fantasy, heavy fantasy that I've been reading, I love to have these palette cleansers in between my reading just to kind of keep me focused and keep me in the game, because a lot of times these heavy books just slump you and then all of a sudden you just find yourself reading the same type of book. So I really want to venture out with my reading taste this year, read some more romance, read some more mysteries, cozy mysteries, and a little bit more nonfiction as well. I'm looking forward to getting to this. So, and like I said, I haven't heard one bad thing about this book, and everyone keeps asking me to read it, so I think it's gonna be something that I love. Next, I have another book that's been on my TBRs for a while, and that is Fairy Tale by Stephen King. I am actually reading this. I have a bookmark in here already. I'm currently slowly reading this, but I'm just finding it kind of hard to get into, but I have heard very good things about this. It's different than most of his books, and I think that's why a lot of Stephen King fans weren't impressed by this, because it's not what you really would expect from Stephen King. But of course, apparently he puts a lot of his, you know, usual Stephen King things in here. I want to get into this. I love anything that has to do with a dog, because I just love my dog, and I think I will really enjoy this. From what I've read so far, I'm enjoying it. I just have other things that were on my priorities before I continued with this, because most of the time I read multiple books at the same time. I just find it like enjoyable, especially because I'm such a mood reader. But I feel that I need to dedicate 100% of my time to this book. So I will get to it eventually, hopefully in the next month or two. In case you were wondering what I have been reading and what I've been getting into, because I haven't done wrap-ups in over a year, I have been reading the Throne of Glass series, and I am finally on the final book, and I need to get to this as soon as possible. This is huge, and every time I take it out, my husband's like, are you really going to read that? I'm like, yes, this is the year. This is the year 2023 of the big, dense fantasy books for me. I want to read all of the big, floppy, fluffy fantasy books this year. That is on my list of things to do. So I may not read 100 books this year, but I'm going to be reading books close to 1,000 pages each, which I think equates to at least 2 or 3 books, normal books. So yeah, I can't wait to get to this. I'm probably gonna pick this up like now, because I just love this series so much. I am obsessed. I mean, I thought I was obsessed with A Court of Thorns and Roses and that whole series, but this just totally changed my world, because I am not such a romance reader. I enjoy romance, but I really love the more of the world building and fantasy aspects of those books than the romance, smutty, sexy time parts. So this really is a little on the lighter side of that, because it is a YA series, but more towards the end, I'd say now, like, things are kind of picking up with the romance. But I love this book so much, and all the characters, like everybody I love. Manon she's my favorite, I think. Like, at first I wasn't sure, but I'm like, oh, there's a witch in here. Like, I'm so excited. I love learning about, like, her world and where she comes from, and oh, it's just so good. I don't want to ruin anything by talking about it any further, but yes, this is high up on my TBR, like, soon. Like, probably when I stop this video. The next, a big fantasy world that I'm nervous and excited to get into, and that is The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. I have been wanting to read this since I created my booktube channel. Need to get to this ASAP, and I am intimidated so much by this series, but I know I'm gonna love it. I love Brandon Sanderson as a person. I love everything he posts. I love his YouTube videos. I love all that, but I'm scared. I'm scared that I'm gonna be disappointed, but at the same time, no one I know has been disappointed, and this is well loved all over across the globe, so it's gonna happen. It's happening this year. The next, another book series I'd like to get to is Holly Black's The Cruel Prince, finish up that series, and then get to Stolen Heir, because this is new, and I need to know what everyone's talking about, and it's everywhere. Cruel Prince was so popular when it first came out, and it was everywhere, and then it kind of slowed down a little bit, but I feel like it's just, anybody who I watch on BookTube still includes one of Holly Black's books in their TBRs or monthly wrap-ups and yearly wrap-ups and things like that. So she is such a well-loved author, and I just didn't really jive with the Book of Night. I just never, like, every time I pick up her books, I just don't know if I love her writing, but I'm going to force myself through this, because when I hear people who I love on BookTube talk about her books and they love her books, I don't understand why I don't. So I must not be reading them at the right time, right place. So I plan on reading this for the spring. I think it's going to get me more in the mood for the spring. And you know, fairies just say spring to me. So I'm going to get into this book then. But I just think I'm going to love it. I just need to push through the parts that I don't like, because I think I'm going to come out the other side of this. The next, a huge book that I need to get to, my hair's in my face, is House of Breath and Sky, or Sky and Breath. Sarah J. Maas is the love of my life. I love her writing. I love everything about her. I just wish I could interview her for a moment in time. But this is something that I've been putting off. I'm actually currently rereading Crescent City, because when I first read Crescent City, I just didn't love it. I had like trouble like focusing and picturing the world, because I was just so used to like being thrown into like a fantasy world. Like, to me, Lunathian is more of like LA, and it's more modern, and I didn't know if I loved that so much. But also I think I just could, like, the characters, everything, there was just so much thrown at you at once that I was having a hard time even remembering what I was reading. I read that entire book, and then a month later I could not remember a damn thing that I read. And like I said, it's not that it's a bad book. I've been having a lot on my brain, so I think I read it at the wrong time in my life. So I'm currently rereading it now, and I'm actually loving it so much more now than I could remember. I'm just like reading it and I'm like, how did I not like this? Like, how did I not picture the world? So obviously my brain, my headspace was not in the right place when I read it. So I am going to be getting to this in 2023, because I heard great, amazing things in this, and then we start to see some connections to Sarah J. Maas's other worlds in this book. So I need to get to it ASAP before the third book comes out, whenever that is. The next, I have two new releases that happened this month, and that is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and this is by Heather Fawcett. This just sounded so whimsical and so like perfect for winter. It's like a winter fairy book. And then this takes place, this is actually a professor studying fairies, and she needs to like go study these like very rare breed of fairies in the forest. And she has a partner, and it just sounds so whimsical, fairy tale like, and I just can't wait to get to this. I think this is the prettiest cover. It's so pretty, and it's almost like a notebook. Like, I feel like this is a textbook type thing. Like, I just love the vibe that this book is giving off, and I can't wait to get to it. I'm really going to try to read it this month or next month, because of the winter aspects of this book. I like to read like books seasonally, like going with the season that it is. It just kind of gives you all the feels. And like the last thing you want to do is read like a winter book in the summer. That's just like my thing. So can't wait to get to this. Then I have here one that I've been waiting for, I feel like forever, and that is Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. I did get the Barnes & Noble exclusive because the end pages are just so cool with the snake and the bunny. It's so cool. So I decided to reread Ninth House so I can get prepared for this, because like I said previously, like, this has been a long awaited book, and I needed to just have everything that happened fresh in my mind. Ninth House is one of my favorite books of all time. All time. So many people find it boring. So many people find it not for them. But for me, it is my favorite type of story. It has to do with Yale, which is a college that I dreamed about going to, well, university that I dreamed about going to my entire life, but I'm not smart enough to get into Yale, nor do I know anyone that can get me into Yale. But I just always had this fascination with Yale and how old it is, and it's kind of spooky. I mean, I don't know if anyone's ever been to the university, but you walk, the architecture is unbelievable, and it just has this vibe, this creepy vibe, dark Gothic vibe to it, and I just find it so interesting and so cool. And Leigh Bardugo embodies that entire thing in it. She was a previous student of Yale, so she knows everything and anything about it. Yale is known for their secret societies and all of that, so I love the world that she created with the supernatural aspect, the occult aspect of that book. So I cannot wait to get to this soon, but I'm nervous at the same time. You know, it's like when you're anticipating a book for so long and then you finally get to it and you're just like, I don't know if I want this to end. I don't know if I want to read this yet. Like, that's where I'm at. I'm just intimidated by it, but I cannot wait to get to it. Like, I just, my reread of it was glorious. I ate it up and I can't wait to eat this up. Next, I have Stephen King's Krystle. I still have not read this book and I want to read it so bad. So I'm gonna get to it. I tried reading it. I think I got to chapter 3. But of course, you know, other things got in my way at the moment that I was reading this. So this is high up on my TBR as well. And it's a must. It's a must for 2023 because I've just been trying to read it for so long. And I love Stephen King. I really do. This is a well-loved book by many of my friends here on BookTube. So gotta get it. Gotta get to it ASAP. Next, I have another book in a series of books that I've been reading that I love. And that is The Vampire Lestat by Anne Rice. I'm about halfway through it, but I just didn't finish it yet. But this book really grabbed me, and it's perfect for the fall time. I never had any interest in picking up Anne Rice's books my entire life. I always would see them and I'm like, I don't know, like the covers never did it for me. I just felt like it was just gonna be a daunting task to take on. But boy, was I impressed by her writing, how absorbed I was into the interview with the vampire. I loved it so much. Like, I am a huge Anne Rice fan now. I think her writing is absolutely stunning, beautiful. She will be remembered forever. She will stand the test of time. Her writing is just relevant and I just love it so much. So I need to get back into the series. There's so many books in the series. So this is like a lifelong task for me. It's not gonna be just a year task for me. It's gonna be lifelong to finish this vampire series by her. I love vampires. I love her take on vampires. I love how she's established this whole world. Like, she knows vampires. She knows them so well, and her take on them is just perfection. You can tell a lot of authors, writers that have written stories about vampires in the past have taken a lot away from reading Anne Rice's books. You could see it. When you pick up her books yourself, you'll see what I'm talking about. Getting back to Anne Rice this year. Then next I have another book which I'm shocked it kind of made my 23 and 23 BR, but I don't know. I just keep hearing great things about this, and I love using my tarot books. I love using my tarot cards, and I love the occult, and I love studying the occult, and I just love spirituality and things like that. So I feel that I will love this series, and this is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. People are saying that it's YA, but I don't think it's YA, but maybe it reads YA. But this is a first in a series, and it's a Gothic, spooky story, and it has to do with, like, the occult is mentioned in here from what I hear, and I believe there's ghosts and things like that, which I love. So anything with the supernatural blended with the occult, I'm here for. Gothic stories, a little bit of romance. This is like what I love, the epitome of what I love. So I'm looking forward to getting to this year. And then here I have another first in a series that I like to get to, and that is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. This is everywhere. This is a well-loved fantasy series, heart-wrenching from what I hear fantasy series. So I'm looking forward to getting to this year. I'm hoping to get to it this year. I read Babel by R.F. Kuang and I loved it. I think it was an unbelievable book. It took me a little bit to get through it. It was a little tough go there, but I really enjoyed it. I love her writing. I think she's very smart and very bright, and an unbelievable author for her age and all of that. So I think that I will love this series as well. Then next I have another book in a series, and that is The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. This is another like palate cleanser book. This is going to be a go-to book that I go to when I need a break from all the heavy fantasy. This is a cozy mystery about a bunch of people in their 70s solving murders. And I just think it is such a cool concept. I feel like I'm gonna love it. I love books about old people. Not that 70 is old, but you know what I'm saying. People that are more mature. And I think this will be a well-loved series of mine as well. So I'm looking forward to getting to it. Next, I have a second in a series that I had started and never finished quite some time ago. And that is Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I read From Blood and Ash 2 years ago, I think. I enjoyed it. It was okay. It's quite dense. But I heard the second book, and as the series goes on, it gets a little bit better. This is a fantasy romance series. This is a second in a series, so I can't really go, you know, tell you much about it. But it's pretty intense. Jennifer L. Armentrout doesn't hold back on, like, the gore and things like that. So I love her blend of, like, high fantasy and romance in her book. From Blood and Ash was really, really good from what I remember, but also like it was a little dense and tough to get through. So I'm looking forward to getting to the second book and hopefully the rest of the books in the series at some point. But like I said, this is the year of big books for me. Next, I have a series I'd like to get to, and that is The Inheritance Games, and this is by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I've heard nothing but great things about this series. Everyone is reading this series right now. It's kind of like how I remember when Hunger Games first came out. Everyone was going crazy for it. So I would love to read this series this year before it gets opted for a movie, because I have a feeling it's going to happen, or it has already happened, not sure. So I want to get through all three of these. This was a gift from my husband for Christmas. So I'm happy that he gifted me all three, so I have them in my possession to read whenever I feel. I have another like YA, well I would say this is adult fantasy romance, and that is Daughter of No Worlds by Carissa Broadbent. I've heard nothing but amazing things about this author's books, so I'm looking forward to getting to this series, and I love the butterflies incorporated in this cover, so I'm hoping there's mention of butterflies in this book, because you know me, I love butterflies, and I just feel that I may really want to finish this series this year if it's something that I love. Oh, I love the chapter headings with the butterflies on them. This is probably the most perfect book for me. I hope I love it, because butterflies, like I said. Next, I have another series that is pretty dense and pretty thick, and just every single book just gets bigger and bigger in this series, so I'm a little intimidated, but I need to finish up Zodiac Academy. This is such a well-loved series. It's all over BookTok, it's all over BookTube. It takes a little bit to get into it, but I really loved this first book, and I thought it was such a cool concept with it's like fairies and having to do with astrology and the planet. I just think that is the coolest thing. It's a little reminiscent of Harry Potter, like a darker retelling of Harry Potter, with magic school and things like that. But honestly, as I was reading it, I just really didn't get any Harry Potter vibes from it, but from what other people talk about with it, I mean, I guess, you know, but I love this. Loved it. So, definitely gonna pick up the second one soon. Next, I have another big chunker that I must get to this year, and that is Priory of the Orange Tree. Holy goodness of book pages is this. I mean, I feel like when I read it, it's just gonna get like that much fatter. You know, like when you read big floppy paperbacks, after you read them from like, not cracking the spine, but like rifting through the pages, it gets like huge. This is a brick. But I heard nothing but amazing things about this book, and I know the second book is coming out this year, so I would really love to get to it. I feel like it's going to be something I love. I love anything about dragons and fantasy, obviously, but this will be a nice little break from like the heavy like fantasy romance that I've been reading as well. So this is a must. But oh, look at this beauty. I love big floppy books. There's nothing like holding like a big floppy book. And I have 2 Kindles. I do. But there's nothing like holding a book. I love it. Ah, I'm excited. 3 more books I'd like to get to here for our final count. And that is Little Eve by Katrina Ward. I really loved The Last House on Needless Street. I read it 2 years ago, Was it 2 years ago already? Wow. Loved it. I thought it was one of the creepiest books I've ever read. So Little Eve sounds like something very similar, going to be super creepy, super gothic. I'm excited. It's small, so I feel like I'll get through it quick, but Katrina Ward, I didn't read Sundial because I just didn't feel like it was a topic that I really enjoyed, but this just sounds so good and spooky. But I feel like her writing, she just writes so twisted that like, I just didn't even know what was going on in The Last House on Needless Street. And when I got to the final like chapters of that book, I was just mind blown. So I'm hoping that this book gives me the same feeling. Maybe one of the few in the world that likes to feel terrified when reading a book. So, especially a horror book, like I want to feel everything. And that's what horror is. Like you just feel all the feels when you're reading horror books. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. And next I have a book that I've been wanting to read probably since I was like 21 years old. And that is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. Been wanting to read this for so long. This is a YA dark academia book. There's a murder amongst friends and someone is framed for that murder in this group, but they're also a group of like theater kids. So they quote a lot of Shakespeare as well, and I just love that aspect. I really enjoyed studying Shakespeare in my English classes. I think this will be a fun book to read, and I know that you can't guess the ending of it. So many people love this book. Need to get to it this year because it's just, I need to check it off my list. I can't have it hanging over my head any longer. It must happen at some point this year. And the final book that I want to read for 2023, which has not come out yet at this point of me filming this video, and that is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. I love Grady Hendrix as an author, as a person. Whenever I hear his name pop up on like a podcast that I listen to, I drop everything to listen to it. I love to hear what's going on in Grady Hendrix's brain, but his writing is perfect for someone that loves the horror genre but doesn't love all the heavy dark content all the time. He loves to blend horror and comedy, and that's like my two favorite blends of horror, like the spoof kind of, but also his horror aspects to his books. And when he writes those scenes, they're pretty spooky. They're pretty scary and they make your skin crawl and get goosebumps. So I really love his book. So I cannot wait for this book. I am running to Barnes & Noble the moment that it is released to pick up my own copy. My favorite book so far by him is The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. I thought that was an excellent book, but also My Best Friend's Exorcism was excellent as well. These are my two favorites so far of his books, but I'm going to hopefully love this one even more. I can't wait for that book to be in my possession. And I know a lot of us here on BookTube are excited for a new Grady book. I think it's been a very long time since we've seen a new book from him. So it's going to be a great, glorious day in the BookTube world on Tuesday. As I'm filming this, it is my birthday, and I am 35 years old today, and it feels weird. I feel like I'm on like a different tier of my life now. It's very strange. Being married and like owning a house, I just feel like so old now. But I know I'm not old. But I'm young at heart, young in spirit. So age is nothing but a number. I get it. So it's just strange. But I will say, like, over the years, from being 35, from being 25 to 35, my reading tastes have changed slightly. Not a lot, but a little bit. I've gone through different phases of my life where, you know, I wanted to read certain books for the phases that I was going through in my life. So now I'm kind of back in my usual routine of like fantasy books, basically. But here I am at 35 on my birthday, January 13th. And I just want to say thank you all for watching my videos. And I cannot believe I've been on BookTube for 4 years now. I'm trying to get back up in the algorithm because, like, for a while there I was good, but you know, it's just such a messy, weird thing, the algorithm getting my videos seen. So if you like this video and you want to see more content from me, just make sure you like and subscribe down below. Also, share this video or comment in the comments down below. You can leave me a birthday cake emoji because today was my birthday birthday to my video. And let me know if you're reading any of these books also this year. Let me know if you were new to Throne of Glass in 2022. If you two are just on the same like mind frame as me, like being obsessed with the series. And like, I just love discovering new things and new fandoms. It's my favorite thing. So thank you all. And on that note, that is all I have for you guys today. So I will be talking to all of you very soon. Bye!